Alright, y'all, so today wanted to do a really quick album review of the 16th studio album from the American band The Beach Boys. This time around, I'm going to be doing a very quick review of Sunflower, which was released in August of 1970, and it was under a new label by Warner Brothers that they released it under. They weren't under Capitol Records anymore. And unfortunately, this album, despite the fact that Carl Wilson famously said that this album was like a group effort, like all parties involved, all members democratically had a say in this project, and yada yada, and they also turned in various versions. Well, unfortunately, this album did very poorly. I think I've heard some people say it didn't even chart in the US. According to Wikipedia, it made it to like 151. So regardless, it was like pretty much their lowest selling record at this point. And this is really unfortunate because I'm going to be honest with you, this is one of their strongest albums, period. Like, I honestly would say this might be in the discussion of top 5 best albums of the Beach Boys' career, and definitely one of the best albums of the 1970s. I really am just considering this album for that discussion because this album, I can really definitively say, in terms of the entire Beach Boys' career, it, at least for me, is almost on the same level as Pet Sounds, right? Or Smile. It's a very solid album, and, it's a group effort. All people involved had a say. This wasn't necessarily a Brian Wilson-led album. Even though he did have a say in it, his role as the band's leader had greatly diminished by this point. But other members in the group started to really shine at this point. In particular, Dennis Wilson, the guy that I think most people, at least when they were, expecting the Beach Boys to grow and possibly evolve as artists, was probably the artist no one was expecting to actually write some of the best pop tunes of all time. But here we are, the guy that, like I said, didn't even want to join the band at the very beginning of the band's creation, ends up writing some of the best songs, in my opinion, in history. Regardless, I'm going to do a track-by-track breakdown and thoughts on this album. I know there are different versions of this project, but I am just going to review the very basic one that's on streaming, the 12-track playlist. So regardless, let's get on to this. We have Slip On Through, which is a very nice, energetic, strong opener to the album. It's got a very nice chord progression and lyrics, and this is also composed and done by Dennis Wilson. A great track, a great opener to the album. Very, very solid. Then we have This Whole World, which is mainly a Brian Wilson tune, but Carl Wilson has some vocals on it. And it's a pretty good track. Very introspective. It's, kind of describing a whole, geopolitical situation with the world. It's a really, really good track. And then we have one of my favorite songs in their entire career, Add Some Music to Your Day. The basic concept of this song is, basically like the title suggests. You're adding some music to your day, and that will make everything better at the end of the day. Which, in my response to that, it really depends on the kind of music. Regardless, a great track. Really great. Mike Love does great with the vocals. The band contributes a lot of backing harmonies to this track. The lyrics are fantastic. The production, the chord progressions, how, the song is built, it's so catchy, add some music. It's just, this whole album has a very nice pop psychedelic sound to it, which I've heard a lot of people kind of describe this album similar to Sgt. Pepper's, which I think is a fair comparison, and it's definitely psychedelic in nature, but it's not like to the extent of certain, like, the late 60s stuff. It feels a little bit more pop-oriented and a little bit more laid back. So, but regardless, not really a criticism. Just wanted to point that out. Next is Got to Know the Woman, another track from Dennis Wilson. Dennis really shines on this album. It's kind of a rough, bluesy track. It kind of a little bit, of a different style than the Beach Boys are used to doing. But it's so catchy. It's kind of like, these very much romantic lyrics, like the title suggests. You're getting to know the woman, probably in a frenzy, if you will. But like I said, it's a very bluesy track. It's got a very upbeat and fast nature to it. And the chorus and the, the lyrics are fast, really just good. I love the hook, got to know the woman. It's just a really, really, really great track. And then we have another personal favorite on the album, Dietry. This has got to be like top three favorite songs on the album. It's got this very much kind of experimental production to it, and the lyrics are really interesting. But Bruce Johnston actually contributes vocals to this, and this is probably his defining song on the entire album. I think it's only, yeah, I mean, he's also got some other great tracks on here, but just incredible track, incredible track. I really enjoy this one. It's got a very, nice lyrics about it. Kind of, is based on a lot of interesting themes, and, it's talking about a lot of different concepts. But it's really, really good. And then we have It's About Time, which is another really good track on the album. Really good, really solid, and another group effort, pretty good. Then we have Tears in the Morning, another Bruce Johnston track here. And the basic gist of this track is it's basically talking about this guy who misses this girl that he used to be with, or woman, and it's like a kind of a breakup song a little bit, and it's quite sad. The lyrics are very strong. Like, I think lyrically, there's a lot of great lyrics on this album. I don't know. This is one of their strongest lyrically songs I've ever heard the Beach Boys play at. And I love the slight production. The production is a bit more laid back here, but it nicely complements the lyrics perfectly. One particular part is like when he's talking about the lyrics, like Bruce Johnston, he's talking about, talking about the woman he lost, and he's like, "Oh, you probably went to Europe," and then there's like a French sound that kind of gets sprinkled into the instrumental. Beautiful, beautiful track. Very somber, but really, really good. And then we have All I Want to Do. This is a very strange track. Something that, like I said, this whole album kind of has a psychedelic vibe to it. I would have never imagined the Beach Boys to try out a track like this. And it's weird because it sounds a lot like another artist I know that obviously came way later. I'm not sure if y'all have heard of him, but his name is Ariel Pink. And it's got this very much cloud pop, like experimental vibe to it. It sounds really contemporary. Like, it doesn't sound like a song was released in 1970. It's a great, great track. All I Wanna, Mike Love does incredible vocals on it. The production is outstanding. I'm probably complimenting every song on this album, but it's really that strong. Then we have Forever. This is arguably the most popular song in this entire album. I've seen a recent resurgence of it, like on TikTok and stuff, and, for good reason. This is probably Dennis Wilson's strongest song on the entire album, and there's a good argument to be made. This is like his strongest song he ever made for the Beach Boys, right? It's just incredible track. It's like basically the narrator is basically professing his love using the kind of words in the phrase forever. If I could sing to you, I would sing forever, stuff like that. Incredible track, very romantic. It was a Dennis Wilson song, and the Beach Boys provide backing vocals to it and elevate it as a result. Incredible track. Incredible. Like, there's a good argument to be made this might be the best song on the album. Just incredible, beautiful. There's really no other words to describe it. Then we have Our Sweet Love, a really good track, really solid, very nice vocals. And then we have At My Window, which is kind of a much more psychedelic kind of song on the album. It kind of reminds me of some of the Sgt. Pepper tracks in a way, but not in a bad way. It's a really, really good track, and I really like it. And, I think it's a really solid song. It's got some very nice lyrics. It's got a very much upbeat kind of vibe to it. Johnson's also on this track. And then we have the final track, which is Cool, Cool Water, which is a Smile track that was basically more completed for this album, because I believe, if I remember correctly, it's Love to Say Dada in the original Smile Sessions playlist, and it was kind of, I think, renamed possibly for the Brian Wilson Smile, but yeah, this is another Smile era track. And I unfortunately have to say, like, out of this entire album, which is mostly strong material, this is like the only weird track on the album for me. I like Smile. I just think that maybe it's a bias thing. I hear a Smile track on this album, and it's a very much good track. It's, more finished. It's got this very much cloud pop kind of vibe, and it's much more extended to the version that's on the Smile sessions. But it's just, I don't know, it feels like the odd one out here. Like, you could have taken this out, and it would have been perfectly fine. Not a bad track, very good, very solid. I like that it was built up a bit more. The instrumental is beautiful, but, it's kind of the odd one out on this entire album. So yeah, all the tracks on this album, I don't have too many complaints about. There's, like I said, some tracks I prefer over others naturally, but to kind of overall rate the material on this album, it is extremely strong. Like, this really sounds like a united, effort by the Beach Boys, and a really solid album in particular. It's just really a huge shame that, like, the Beach Boys, in terms of their commercial success, just became more and more lacking in that department and irrelevant, right? It's just such a shame because this album, I'm gonna be honest with you, and I'm not afraid to say it, it is super underrated. I think more people got to listen to this. This album needs to be in discussion with other albums like Pet Sounds. Even, I'm gonna be honest with you, some of the like Beatles records, some of the Rolling Stones records from that time period. This is up there. It is a very, very strong album with great material, and it's a very nice listen throughout. Another positive too, and I don't usually always mention this, but the cover itself is also pretty nice. I would have probably wanted something a little bit more, but it's a very sweet and sincere cover. It shows all the Beach Boys with their children, and it's pretty cool. Even Brian's on the cover. Very nice, very nice. But that being said, the songs on this are fantastic. I really highly recommend this album. It's one of their strongest in their entire discography. I would probably at least put it in the top 5 for sure, if not maybe top 3. It is a great, great album. Feels more united and feels more central in theme compared to their last album, which was a bunch of singles and Smile tracks. This is a much more completed effort. And despite, like I said, the odd one out, which is the Smile track here, ironically, it's a very good album. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Sunflower. Highly recommend this. Hopefully you have a good day, and peace, y'all.